Hi boys and girls. So this week for our reading lessons, we are going to focus on sharing opinions. So you know from your opinion writings that your opinion is what you think about something. And you want to provide reasons or evidence for why you think that. With our opinions, I want you to remember that if you're going to state an opinion, you want to have reasons to back up your opinion. For example, if I was to say, I think summer is the best season out of all 4 seasons, then I have to have some reasons to back that up. And some of my reasons would be, well, it's warm outside, the days seem to be longer because the sun goes down later. So today we're going to be focusing on sharing an opinion about Franny making good choices or bad choices. So in your graphic organizer today, you have 2 opinion choices. Your first opinion choice is that, yes, Franny does make excellent choices. Now, if you choose that opinion, then you have to have those reasons to back up your opinion, that evidence from the text. Your second opinion that you can choose is, no, Franny does not make good choices. And if you pick that opinion, then you have to have those reasons to back it up. Today, you're just going to be focusing on choosing which opinion you believe is true. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on how we can make our opinions stronger by using reasons and explanations and examples from the book. That'll be for tomorrow, but today I want you to think about which opinion you're going to choose. And you can take notes under the column that you choose, so start thinking of those examples of why you think that, so you can create a strong opinion. So yesterday we read chapter 8, and in chapter 8, Franny, Mrs. Miller, Mr. Miller, and Elliot are all at this fancy French restaurant called Baloo. And Franny and Elliot, even though they weren't supposed to, wrote a note to the woman who they thought was Maria Cross. And they left this note on Maria Cross's table. Maria Cross. We don't know if she's actually Maria Cross. And do you guys remember what the note said? Yeah, the note said that there was bugs in the food. Now remember, Elliot and Franny were walking to the bathroom and they noticed that they saw bugs on this plate. Was Franny right about the bugs? We'll have to see. But when she left the note on Maria Cross's table, she read it and she freaked out. And everyone in the restaurant was demanding their checks and wanted to leave. And so now everyone's leaving the restaurant, and that's where we left off. So let's start chapter 9. During the car ride home, my dad kept looking at us in his rear view mirror. His look asked if Elliot and I did something to make Maria Cross scream and run out of the restaurant. My mom turned around to face us. So you have no idea what Maria Cross, if that was even her, said when she ran out? Elliot and I shook our heads no. I felt horrendous not telling them the truth, but I was a restaurant critic right now, and we work in secret. My parents would have to learn about what happened once it was in the newspaper, just like all the other readers in the world. It was a really good thing that Elliot was sleeping over because we had to write this review as fast as possible. We had to get it in all the newspapers so the restaurant could get an exterminator and get rid of all those bugs. Our parents were going to be so proud of us. Boys and girls, do you think that Franny and Elliot are doing the right thing by writing a letter to the newspaper about these bugs? We'll have to keep reading to see. When we got home, Elliot and I rushed to my desk and pulled 2 chairs together. He started to write about the restaurant. I told him about the bathroom, so he wrote about that too, and I wrote about the food. Then Elliot rewrote the whole review in his unusual handwriting. Tinley was going to babysit me and Elliot the next day. Since she knew about healthy things, we thought she'd know about the bugs at Balloon. So our plan was to show her our review first. Here is the review we wrote. This is a restaurant review of the most awfulest restaurant in the world. It is written by 2 people, Franny B. Miller, who will review the food part, and Elliot Stevenson, who will review the restaurant part. Tonight, we had the most worst meal in the entire city of Chester. We had it at a new restaurant. The new restaurant is really bad, first of all, because it is called Balloon. But they forgot the letter N, so the awning just says Baloo. Also, it was very crowded. There were so many people there that we had to give our coats to someone to put away. But the worst thing is what we're about to tell you. It is not an opinion that there were actual insects in the kitchen and the waiter poured butter on them. Then he took that plate and brought it to someone else who would eat the bugs and butter without even knowing it. We wrote Maria across a note about this, and she did the exact right thing and screamed and ran out of the restaurant. Then lots of other people screamed and ran out of the restaurant. My parents did not hear what the people were screaming about, so we stayed all the way through to dessert. Then we left and came home to write this review. Thank you for reading this review. The end. P.S. There were some good things we forgot to tell you. The bathroom had a ceiling flusher that you pulled. Also, there were sprays that smelled like roses and a waterfall that ran down a wall, which I did not see, but Franny told me about. Chapter 10. The next morning, we looked at the Chester Times because my parents had delivered it every day. We were relieved to see that Maria Cross did not write her review there yet. We wanted to be the first ones to review the terrible restaurant Balloon. I had a very strong feeling in my heart that when the newspaper printers read it, they would hire me and Elliot as their new restaurant reviewers. Tinley came over and said we were going to have a really fun day. Then we walked into town so we could go to the hobby store. The hobby store is where we buy our hobbies. For instance of what I mean is that sometimes Elliot and I like to dye t-shirts. The hobby store is where we buy the tie-dye t-shirt kits. On the walk over, we told her all about the bad restaurant, and then we handed her the review. She took the review from our very hands and read it right there and then. We watched her face grow very angrified. So the bugs were not crawling on the floor, they were on the plate? I nodded, yep. Then they were right there, dead on a plate. In butter, Elliot added. In butter, Elliot added. Tinley moved her face into a gross expression. You make it sound like there were a lot. It wasn't just one bug, like a fly that accidentally flew onto the plate or something. There were a lot of them, like 16 of them. That is really revolting, Tinley said. Revolting is a really good word. It was very revolting, I said. Tinley thought for a minute. Then she looked back at us and asked, Are you 100% positive that they were bugs? They couldn't have been anything else? Maybe a type of food that looks like bugs? What kind of food looks like bugs? I asked. Tinley thought about this for a minute. Caviar looks like hundreds of ants mushed together in a pile. Is that how they looked? I looked at Elliot and passed a brain note to him. It said, She is not listening to us. And Elliot sent one back that said, I know, but I'm not the boss of her, so I really can't do anything about it. I wondered whether I needed to use my English accent so that she would really listen to me, but I decided against that. That is not how they looked because, like I just told you, there were about 16 of them, and they were also bugs. I told her with a face that did not move a muscle, and that only could mean one thing. They were bugs. Do you think that Franny is telling the truth? Do you think they really were bugs? We'll have to see. They were definitely bugs, Elliot agreed. Well, if you're 100% sure, then we'll have to do something right away, she said. Then she stared directly into my eyeballs. Are you 100% sure, Franny? 100%, I said. And Elliot, she asked, looking directly into his eyeballs, are you 100% sure too? 100%, he also said. Fine, then we need to take action now, she said. This is a very serious health issue. I hadn't thought about that. It was true that we probably should have told people about the bugs instead of keeping them a secret. I have an idea, Tinley said, but she didn't tell us the idea. She was walking really quickly, like we were late to meet her idea. When we got to the hobby store, she finally told us what she was thinking. We are going to make signs. I thought this was a spectacular idea. We bought all the supplies, then we sat at a table they had in the hobby store for making signs just like this. This is what we wrote in very big letters. There are bugs at Balloon. Don't eat here. We made 1,200 teen signs, then we walked up and down the street, taping our signs to poles, and marched right up to the restaurant Balloon. It was closed because it was daytime, so we taped a sign to the front window. We stood back and smiled at the job we had done. When I looked down the street, I saw people already crowding around some signs and reading them. It was working. Then, on our way home, we stopped at the post office where Tinley bought us a stamp and an envelope. Tinley showed us how to look up the address for the Chester Times in the phone book at the post office. And then, because Elliot is my secretary and has an unusual handwriting, he addressed the letter. Maria Cross's boss, the Chester Times, 345 Pearl Street, Chester, New York, 10758. Elliot and I walked to the post office window and handed the person our letter. I looked at her in a very strict but polite way and said, "It is very important that this goes to the newspaper. Thank you very much." Then she said, "I will personally see to it." She was taking me very seriously. That felt really grown up. Another thing that felt grown up was her name tag. I was very interested in name tags. I made a brain note to make one for myself when I got home. Maybe I'd even wear it to school. Here is a picture of Franny and Elliot and Tinley putting up the signs at Baloo. The sign over that it looks like Tinley is putting up says, "There are bugs at Baloo. Don't eat here." And that is where we are going to stop today. So tomorrow we will continue reading Frankly Franny. Today, when you're working on your graphic organizer, remember you're thinking about opinions. Does Franny make good choices or does she not make good choices? And you want to start thinking of some reasons why she makes good choices or why she does not make good choices. Boys and girls, I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe and healthy, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.